Hello.
Hi.
It's Roy and Val, and we're back.
Once again, we're here.
We're here at the Lansing Creativity Center to talk about glass flowers. That's what we're going to talk about today, right? So,
That's right.
So you see we have a variety of them kind of sitting around on top of the table
Kayla's
here.
getting a picture of the finished ones, and then
Yeah,
we
showing
have
some.
several sort of in the process with their different components. So we thought we would show you the different stages and maybe how to connect them, how to put stems on them, how to decorate them a little bit. But we're referencing the book, right?
Yeah, So this is Fused Glass Flowers is by Creative Paradise. If you're not familiar with them, they make a lot of the molds. So in fact, I think all the molds that we used in this situation were Creative Paradise molds. I think maybe not necessarily all for flowers specifically, but a lot of these ones you're seeing on the tabletop are specifically made for doing these types of flowers. They're designed by Stephanie O'Toole, if you're familiar with her in Creative Paradise. And
Shout out Stephanie.
Yeah, it's a great book because it's got just a lot of different types of flowers to do. Not even, this is only just a small part of what goes in there.
And patterns, and that's really nice.
Yes, and the patterns are great, and the instructions are really, really clear and thorough. She's super thorough. So, I mean, way more thorough than we can be. But we're going to talk about them anyways, right? And kind of talk about what we did.
Right.
So, we did a few different types of flowers, and using the firing schedules in there, we did them on like what we might call a contour fuse, if you're familiar with that, which I think was in the 1380 range, I think.
Not mine. I did exactly
what she said in the book, which was
1410, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's right, 1410. Yeah, I can't remember. It was one of those. So we just fired them. Some of the tricky things about it was you have to do a lot of like overlapping because we're using a lot of times just a single layer of glass. And so this one, for example, I mean, it's just a single layer of glass, which is really nice because it makes them look a little bit more delicate and a little more flower-like, I think. So what you'll have to do is overlap. And I think if you look close here, you can see how this petal is overlapping that bottom petal, right? That petal is overlapping that one. This one overlaps those. And so sometimes, I know like when I was doing one here, that they didn't overlap so well. So when I was slumping, you can see that these two leaves or petals got a little funky shape to them. But, they're flowers. To me, it's always a nice thing about doing something like flowers, right? Because they're not perfect in nature, so if they're not perfect coming out of the kiln, it's probably going to be all right.
Yes.
Don't you think? Yeah.
I absolutely do. I think that's what makes them kind of fun, too.
So this one, I wanted to show you this really nice sunflower. So Daisy, that works here at Delphi, made this one. And
lots of pieces.
Yeah, we were joking around. And I told her, I said, "Hey, you could pick one that maybe had like 5 petals." And
I did.
Right? This one's 4 petals.
This one I really went out of the box with this one.
This one has 72 petals. So Daisy cut these out. But the interesting thing was we didn't have that particular mold that was referenced in the book. And so, so we compromised, right? I mean, we have, I'm sure at home you have different slumping molds for bowls or for whatever, right? Or draping molds. And so this was a slumping for a bowl mold, really. But what Daisy did was, if you can see the backside of it, so she cut a couple of pieces of the thicker fiber paper and then put those in the bottom of the mold. So now her flower has a flat side to it instead of being curved like the bowl. So the only part that ended up being curved is just the flowers. Or I'm sorry, just the petals, right? So I thought that was kind of innovative way of using something.
I think it's a good point too. I really, so we talk about that. There's that fly again. Sorry, another fly. I think it's.
Yeah, we were late today because
that fly
in this room is.
Right, but I think that we both talk about this in our other classes as well. I mean, molds are kind of pricey, right? So you get one, try to get one that's real versatile. But I think sometimes people don't realize that it doesn't have to be the exact shape of your mold. The glass doesn't have to be exactly what your mold is. It doesn't have to be a circle. It doesn't have to be a square. As long as whatever you're slumping fits within it, you can use a square to slump, get just a little gentle curve to a circle, or whatever. And I think same thing with these. The molds are great, but I was thinking more about for leaves and things. I would just use the side of my bowl, one of my little bowls, just lay a piece so it just bends it a little bit. or sometimes you can turn them upside down and get it bent. I mean, so you can use your molds to do some kind of fun stuff, other than just what they were intended for. So
yeah, we didn't. I did grab the mold, but this little daisy flower here. So this one was done by Candace that works here at the store, and then so I was asking them. I said, "Hey, you guys want to make some flowers?" And so she just made this flower. So not out of the book. So that's another thing too, right? I mean, this was just some clip art she found, and then made this flower out of it. So not a design specifically out of the book, but you can find a flower pattern and make a flower. And then we slumped it on this mold that, if you can see, it kind of put a slight little twist into the petals a little bit, which makes that one sort of fun.
That is cute. What mold is that?
That is the
Is it the pinwheel?
yeah, it's like the pinwheel one. I think that it's in the book. I mean, they referenced it in the book. So
Oh, okay.
We did grab a mold that was like in the book. And we were like, I wonder what this one does, but it creates these kind of fun little kind of curved looking petals, which I know I had it somewhere, but it's probably in the kiln room. I'm pretty sure. So the other thing was, I want to show them this one with not that, but the mold underneath it. Yeah, and you can see that this is an organic shaper mold. I think they call it the small organic shape, and that's what this one was done out of, which is really pretty cool looking. I mean, again, look how the term organic really works well here, because it really makes the flower look a lot more natural looking than so
instead
structured.
Of flat and I agree.
Right, isn't that was pretty cool?
That's really nice.
Yeah, we learned a lot from doing these. Sometimes, in the construction of them, sometimes they'll leave a hole in the middle, or you can intentionally leave a little hole so there's a spot for us to try to attach them to something if that's your goal. Other times you have to drill a hole in them, which we're not going to unfortunately have time to show you that today, but if you'd like to see us drill a hole in glass, I mean, reach out to us, because we'd be happy to show that in another Facebook Live sometime. And then, so if you look at this one here too, this is the one that Val did, real nice one. So you can see there's, the hole is already in there. It was just how you kind of arranged it. And then Val threw in some coarse frit just to add a little more decoration to the petals.
Yeah, so I guess, we're showing all that, but I mean, we haven't really said exactly. So the way you attach, the tubing, the copper tubing, to create the stem, the way you would do that is by putting a screw through the middle of the flower. So either drilling the hole or constructing it so that you leaving yourself an opening is kind of what how they recommend that you do it in there. And then like this one, it got a little bit, it opened up a little too much.
Yeah, the hole wasn't that big. No.
Right, in the slumping it opened.
It opened up a lot in the slumping.
Yeah, so like we're gonna have to figure out some way to counteract that. So we figured, well, if you get a big enough washer, and I'll put that behind, and then you screw down through it. But we're going to show you how to do it.
We'll talk
but I'm
about
just saying,
that
as you were talking, and we're talking about the holes and everything, and we haven't really talked about the fact that that's really how you do put stems on them and put them together, is with the screw situation and the copper tube.
Yeah. Our plan was to try to attach these. You can see some of these are. You can see how this one's attached to a piece of copper. Our copper's been sitting around for a little while, so it's starting to oxidize. You can see the slight brownish color to the copper. If you look on the inside, you can see how that's attached.
We covered it.
Oh yeah, we covered it. So
we don't have one that's not covered.
Are these all covered?
But that's why. So when this goes like this, if you wanted to after the fact, and this isn't maybe exactly what would go really well, but you can make a separate little disc to then glue on top of the nail head or the screw head, so that you don't see it, which I think looks kind of nice. So. In the
these were frit.
You can see that they made a little circular disc and then put chunky frit on it, and so that's what's covering up the hardware. Right?
Or sometimes even these little, these are just little nuggets or globs that we made in the kiln. Right, just throw in a small piece of glass and fire it up till it turns into a nice little circle. And these are actually a real nice way of just, and you can just glue that.
Little one on there.
Just glue that to the screw head, and then you can see where you can really totally disguise where the screw head's at. You could also paint the screw head. I've known people have done that. Just literally just paint the head so that it's not as noticeable.
We're fusing, and for the longest time, I think a lot of us felt like, oh well, everything we make needs to be fused together. So any of the components or any of the extra things that, and there's some pretty good glues out there now. So even if, you wanted to do more coarse and frit, you could just glue them in there too, over the screw. I mean, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a fused piece, right?
Stephanie in the book talks about using a hot glue gun, right? So I mean, if you're at the last minute, you can just throw a little hot glue gun on top of the screw head and throw something over just to cover it.
Yeah, so it's just cosmetic.
Again, it doesn't have to be as involved as we try to. We think it always has to be or something. So I have a piece of, so there's a couple different kinds of copper out there you can find. I mean, Delphi sells this nice kit that's right here that comes with this copper that looks like this. And so this is the type of copper that's used not in electrical work, but it's used in the plumbing area. So it's often like the water line that goes to a refrigerator or to an ice maker machine, right? That kind of a thing.
Ice maker machine?
Yeah, it's not what they're called.
I just call them ice makers. I think they're machines, but
You
that's
don't say machines, though.
I don't, but I will from
Well,
now
in case
on.
some people didn't know.
I will from now on.
Well, if you just put water in the freezer, that makes sense.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's
Good.
right. Yeah.
So
we got it.
my point was, it's not an electrical part. If you're looking at your hardware store or at one of the big box, home improvement stores, it's in the plumbing area. The other nice thing about this particular copper is it's flexible, so you can see where I can just kind of bend it out, right? So if you want to kind of bend it into a shape, you can definitely do that. The kit that we sell comes with screws and some washers. So again, ways Val was kind of hinting about earlier was that sometimes, maybe the hole isn't exactly the size that you need it to be, and so using a washer can help sometimes with that. It can help stabilize the flour on the end of the pipe. The purpose of these screws, so the screws are, it's what's called a wood screw. So if you're not familiar with the types of screws, I got one in here. Let me see if I can get it out real quick without hurting myself. Oops, whoa, that was crazy. So this is a wood screw. That's what comes with there. And then so what we're using the wood screw for is to act like a tap and thread into the pipe. So we're just threading the pipe with the screw. So that's one way of doing this, right? So that's the way our kit comes in. So then you could come in. I'll warn you, though, if you're doing that, it helps if you have a small vise that you can clamp this down and then screw it in. It's pretty hard to do it by hand and just trying to hold the pipe and hold the screwdriver while you're doing it. But this one, I didn't get it all the way in, but it's good enough for what we're doing, right? So you can see it just goes in, and then if you just keep forcing it, it'll just keep threading the inside of the copper pipe. Another great way of doing it too is, so what we have on this end is these what's called hollow wall anchors. And so they look like this. If you're familiar with, like, you're going into drywall, you might have one of these things if you're trying to screw into a drywall. And then you would screw into this, and this expands a little bit and it kind of gets stuck in drywall. But it works great for this. In fact, this particular one, if you, again, we don't sell these here at Delphi, but if you want to just take a look at it real quick, it tells you the size. It's all written in here, right? So this is a size 4 to 6, and I think it's 7/8 inch long. That 4 to 6 refers to the size of the screw also, the diameter of it. So this particular size, if you're interested, sorry, the copper pipe is a 1/4 inch. So this is a 1/4 inch copper pipe. And so this particular size hollow wall anchor just fits literally just in the opening. I did take a hammer and just tapped on it lightly just to kind of force it all the way in, but that worked pretty well. And then you would use the screw that comes with the hollow wall anchor just to screw into that, right? So that would come in.
I would really think too, especially if your flour's heavier, don't you think that's a good, better option to?
This one?
I think snugger.
Yeah, what I really like is how snug it really is in there, right? So this is pretty nice. So the other thing that's probably a great idea, we mentioned washers beforehand, so sometimes you might want to use a washer just to help secure the flour onto the pipe, depending on the diameter of the pipe. But the other thing that we use a lot of times around here is rubber washers, and this is just one size that I happen to purchase. They come in different sizes, so depending on what you're trying to get covered, right? But the advantage to the rubber washer is there's a little give to it. So the way I sort of think of it is anytime there's glass touching metal, you might want a rubber washer. So like even here, I would put that rubber washer on underneath the screw head, right? And then we could come through the flour and then that would go into this. And then, so again, if you were concerned about it, where my other
It just
little
makes a
rubber
really
washer
nice
is,
cushion, right?
yeah, it's just one more little cushion. You could put another rubber washer there and then come into here, which is probably not like a horrible idea, right? So then you could come in and screw this. Again, this is one of those things that if you have like 5 people helping out, it's a good project. And to be honest, this last little bit should really probably be done with by hand, right? Because then you can adjust how much pressure you're putting in it. But again, so this one's it's a little loose just because I didn't with the drill I didn't want to give it all that power. Sometimes that's a little too much, right? But you can see how it's kind of sitting on there pretty well, actually, right? So
that looks good.
That's not too bad. You can see what the back looks like. So again, the rubber washer sitting on there. Yeah, much better.
No, it really did.
A little bit better than we were expecting.
Yeah,
We were
I'm impressed.
Just before we went live, we were goofing around with all this stuff, making sure we had things working. But so that's one way of doing it. Again, the other way is with this other screw down here, right? So we can come in. We could do the exact same thing on this end. I don't know if I'm going to do the whole thing, but I just want to show you guys. You kind of get the idea of things.
Whoa.
Yeah, you guys want to see me break something? It helps if you like reverse the drill while you're trying to pull it.
I wasn't sure what you were doing.
Yeah, nobody is. So then same deal, right? I would put a rubber washer on the inside of that screw, take the glass, and then set that in, do the same thing, and screw that right in. So and hold that into place. But again, I'm not gonna go ahead and do the whole thing. I think you guys get the concept right with that one.
You're not really suggesting they put one on each end, though, right?
It's a double-ended flower. You get bored with. You get tired of one flower, you just turn around, and you got another flower. So. No, I was not. I was just using this one because it was easier to show the both techniques of attaching it right now. So the other thing we didn't show you was how to cut the copper. So this is a relatively inexpensive pipe cutter. It's called. Again, pick it up at your hardware store. It works actually really quite simple. I'm not going to cut one just because it takes a few minutes to do that, but I'll just show you the idea, right? So you would, get your pipe whatever length you want it. And am I moving around too much for you?
Just a little bit.
Sorry.
It's okay.
And then you would just keep tightening this down. There's a groove down here that the pipe sits into. So what's nice about the pipe cutter is it actually works on different diameters. So again, like I was telling you, this is a 1/4 inch. And this little small pipe cutter will go down to 1/8 of an inch if you had one even that small. And then you just tighten this up, and then you rotate it around, then you would tighten it some more, and then you just keep doing that till eventually you cut right through it.
Mm-hmm. You have to keep the channel open, right? So that's why you can't just nip it or anything, because you can't collapse and
good point.
And change the diameter, because then you'll have a heck of a time getting screws and things in there. So this kind of deal that goes round and round and round, scores, just kind of bites in a little more, and then after you do it long enough, it should just snap.
Yeah, and then you just keep tightening it down and then rotating it. You want to rotate it around a couple of times, not hard to do, and then just keep rotating it. Again, it takes probably more than time than
and that just keeps the opening open.
Yep. Sometimes it does keep it open as well. Sometimes you might have to take a little file to open it back up. But I noticed that like the two things that we did today that we were showing you guys, like so the one with the hollow wall anchor, I didn't have to open the pipe up anymore. I could just, like I said, set that in and tap it with a hammer to kind of set it in. This one, again, I used the screw to thread the inside of the pipe, and even though the pipe was a little more narrow, the screw just opens that back up too. So again, nothing I had to really worry about. As far as that goes. But there are other kind of pipes out there. When I was at the hardware store picking up something else, I saw one of these copper pipes. This one, a little bit bigger in diameter. It's actually, the difference is this is a 1/4 inch on the inside, so it makes the pipe actually bigger. This is the one I showed you earlier is a 1/4 inch on the outside diameter.
OD.
OD, as we say. So because of that, what's nice about, so this one's really stiff, right? I'm not just going to bend this one as easily as I bent that other one. So if you're looking for something you want to stick in a plant or in a pot or just in the garden, right? It's a little stiffer to do that. They come longer. I just bought this short one because I didn't want to carry around a big long pipe. But the other nice thing is you can buy what's called a copper cap. So this will just fit on the end of this. And so you could glue the cap to the back of the glass. So, you know, we could use an epoxy or silicone, some nice high-grade silicone, and we could glue it to the back, and then that would just sit right on the pipe. What's, you know, I sort of like about that idea is you can, you know, swap your flowers out. So, you know, you got bored with one.
It can be
you can,
seasonal.
Yeah, you can easily just remove it and stick another one back on, or you want to pull in all your flowers at night so nobody walks away with them.
Yeah.
That's the other thing you could do. We joke around a little bit because we stick things out in front of our building all the time, and you know, sometimes they go missing, and you know, we don't really care that much because we figure somebody got some glass to decorate with, right? So they're probably happy with that.
Yes. Well, we have, there's lots of things in the book. So, I mean, like we said, the book's great, but then the more you do, the more you kind of start to think of things on your own, or you kind of go, oh, well, I could maybe do this. So we just have a couple of things. Roy made this dragonfly with a fuse, and
that was done.
And they show it in the book where they do kind of adorn some of the flowers with some of these. So that could go, you know,
that was done
on a flower, on this casting mold. They make that, or you know, I said we could, depending on, you know, if you happen to be somebody who has little of this stuff around. I mean, I have lots of this kind of little stuff around. So, I mean, with the glues being so good, you could kind of, you know, do some cute stuff. You know, if you had little things like this to glue. This one, this is just copper wire that I melted some yellow and just put a little dollop of yellow.
Yeah, you were going to put them in here, or you were thinking that maybe you could find a way of getting them in here. So then you have these stamens coming out.
So there's just some fun stuff you can really do. This was a, what is it, Kaylee? Freeze and
fuse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you could, I didn't ever fire him, so that's why he's not shiny, but.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you could make, even if, because we did a live on all that stuff too, so go back and watch that, and you could make your own little bugs. Didn't we?
We did a casting.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we casted some biggers.
That's why I made these, was for one of our.
Oh, yes, we did. I'll find that and link it below, as well as the book today.
There's one with
the glass mold. Yeah.
I know what you're thinking, but I can't think of it either.
Yeah, the name of the.
We'll find it and we'll figure it out.
Yes. But anyway, no, that's kind of.
Oh, and then the vitrograph, right? You showed the vitrograph too. So.
Yeah, and we always have a lot of this around because we do it in a lot of our classes. So, you know, I don't know. This, once again, it's class, but you could glue it, you know. So, I mean, I wouldn't get, you know, you want to try to use the bigger pieces, but if you just wanted to kind of glue little bits, you know, here, there, and everywhere.
I think even these ones that are dimensional, right? I mean, you can glue some of these on just so they kind of stick out and add a little interest to it. So if you're not familiar with this technique, this is done in a flower pot. So we put glass in a flower pot in a small kiln.
It stays with our theme, flowers.
Oh yeah, flower pot. There you go. And then it's suspended above the ground, and when the glass melts, it comes through the bottom of the flower pot, and then we bend and twist it into shapes.
Yeah. We also have a video for that we can link to.
Yeah, it's probably on our video page, on the Facebook page on the video section, or on our YouTube channel. I'm sure it's there if you want to track it down there. If you guys have questions, as always, you know, feel free to reach out to us. You can always email us at facebook@delphiglass.com. And again, if you have ideas, you know, we're always open. I think we asked for some last time. I think we got a few. So
we did.
That's great.
It was wonderful.
I think we have some for maybe the next few times. But again, we're always looking. Or if we don't, you know, if you have questions about what we're doing here, and you know, reach out to us, and we'll get back to you with an answer. One of us will.
Yeah. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll look at our list and we'll figure something out. And Kaylee will let you know what we're going to do. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today. And the other thing is, you know, if you guys are making, you know, when we talk about stuff, and if you guys are at home making these things, I mean, we love seeing photos. I mean, we really do. I mean. You guys wouldn't believe it. We live through our customers and what they make because we don't have a lot of time to always make stuff. So if you guys are making flowers and want to share those images with us, I mean, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to see
email us, tag us. Yes. We'll make sure everybody sees them.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yep, thanks. See you next time.